So I sell a product. That is my main goal, but I sell it through a service. So I built a software for hosting your courses, products, contacts, funnels. That's Course Catalyst. But the way I've been selling this is by providing a service to creators, coaches, to help them set up their funnels within Course Catalyst. So this goes beyond just support that a typical software company would be. It's more like a service that you pay me money for. I install these things for you, providing any scripts, automations, integrations that you need. So while people see a service, what I'm really doing is installing a product into their business and into their workflows. And the big question is why? Why am I selling this way? The first person I sold to was asking me about this, when you could just have an open purchase page where people can sign up for the software. The simple answer that will summarize everything we're going to talk about in this lesson is that people will have the most success if they run their business on Course Catalyst. So the service is not just about setting up funnels, it's about helping you set up funnels within my product. And that's one of the requirements to work with me. If you don't want this, that's fine. I'm just not going to do the service portion for you. Because why would I do that if I believe Course Catalyst is going to get you the best results? I'm not just going to act as an agency building funnels in a bunch of different software. So that's the real reason why the use of these things within Course Catalyst is a prerequisite for the clients I'm working with to get the best results. Now, yes, in theory, I could just crop the service portion off and just allow people to do this thing. And at some point, that's probably what I'm going to do. You can just go to the webpage and sign up, put in your credit card info and join the platform. But there's a big downside to doing that at the stage where I currently am with Course Catalyst. To understand this deeper, you can learn about how I set up funnels for people. You can check the link down below for the free course, which will introduce you to the Trust Funnel Framework, basically a system for how to build a free lead magnet to get unlimited contacts, which you can sell to, or to get them on calls for you to get them into higher ticket coaching programs. But let's talk about why I don't just do the product by itself right now. That's because not only do I believe having Course Catalyst is going to give you the most success, but I believe in order for you to get the most success, I need to show you how to set up certain things within the platform, as well as certain systems that I believe are necessary. And if I just give you open access to the platform, you might not set things up in the ideal way, especially if you're pretty early on in the journey. So with your business, you might have some courses, you might have some funnels, but you might be missing key components that are preventing you from getting to that next level that I have built into the Course Catalyst software. So a big one of these is evergreen deadlines. So timers that are tied to accounts. We've talked about this in other lessons as well. This is how you can create evergreen sales without you having to get people on calls or have some launch every month or whatever it might be. This is a thing where you might already have some sequences, but you're not utilizing them to their full potential. So by working with you, I can analyze what you're doing and see where it makes sense to use some of the specialized features within Course Catalyst, like timers. So it's more than just me putting everything on the website for you. It's me helping you structure everything to get the best results within Course Catalyst. Additionally, setting up your sites on platforms can be quite time consuming. Not within Course Catalyst, though, it's relatively simple. But even if you have to migrate anything over to Course Catalyst, or if you want to use Course Catalyst as an additive thing with the systems you already have, doing all of that is going to take time and effort. So with this, I basically just do everything for them so they don't have to worry about doing any of the boring setup configuration stuff, wasting a bunch of time. Instead, I have them invest that time into creating some key things that they need for their funnel, such as a free course lead magnet to get contacts in their list. So when people visit my profile and they see that I help them set up funnels, they might think, oh, this is like an agency or something. And the results that you get are going to be very similar to an agency, but I'm not selling an agency or a service. Behind the scenes, I'm actually selling the product. And this works because I know if I service enough people, you'll stay on the platform because you're going to have good results. And that, I believe, is the best way to sell. Basically getting you results, not just giving you a website to build stuff in. So my goal is to get you results. And when I act as a service, if you're not getting the results, I'm not getting the results because our goals are aligned. Whereas if you just go pay me a monthly subscription, hey, if you don't use it and you're just paying me money, whatever, I don't really care. That's your problem. Now, obviously, I would want you to get the most out of it, but with this extra level of service, I'm deeply invested in seeing your success on the Course Catalyst platform. Plus, because I am going to retain you as a long-term customer because it's going to be a good experience, I don't have to charge a ton of money up front that you might get hiring some expert to set you up funnels in different systems. So it's way more affordable because I believe in long-term value. Getting you as a long-term subscriber of Course Catalyst is way more important to me than just me going in there working for you on an hourly basis to set up some funnels, something I would have zero interest in doing. So this very involved approach to selling is the way I'm going to be selling probably to the first 10 people. And then beyond that, it'll be very similar, but it will be sold probably in a one-to-many way. So I might be doing it through YouTube here or through webinars and perhaps just direct checkout pages, but it's still going to be tied to that higher level service. That's going to be a standard offering for everybody that joins the platform, probably at least until I hit the first 100 subscribers on Course Catalyst. Because for me, the idea is every customer is a happy customer and is successful within Course Catalyst, assuming they're putting in the work and it is a good fit. The platform can be used to solve their problems. I want every single customer to be satisfied, and I want every single customer to be a potential case study. Now, I get not everybody will want a case study for what they're building on Course Catalyst, and that's fine, but this is the approach I have. If you're in Course Catalyst, you will be successful, and so much so, you'd be willing to do a case study so I can show that to other people. So if I get 100 customers, these are 100 people I've provided service to over the next year or two, or shorter or longer, however long it takes, and this translates to 100 case studies. Well, now I have a ton of social proof that I can then use to get people to just sign up without me having to be involved at all, without that higher level service tier. On top of that, I'll have 100 people where I can use their experience to build out SOPs, templates, and solve all of their problems. So at this point, the software should be a lot more autonomous. Obviously, I'll be adding new features and creating better software forever, but the beginning stages is so important. So having 100 people go through Course Catalyst, I'll be able to use all of their needs, all of their feedback, and all of their processes to figure out what works the absolute best, what features are a necessity, and I can then implement that into the software. And at that point, things will be changing much less. So I can create standardized documents for tutorials and guides. I can do video walkthroughs, and I can do support in a more one-to-many approach. So that's really how we'll scale from 100 to 1,000 plus. So I'll either have to hire people or build the software in such a way that it's self-supporting. Things are so good and so simple that you don't really need a whole lot of support. You can just use the software as it's supposed to be used. And then if you need, you can reference some of the docs and the videos to get help. Another reason I want to give top-notch support to everybody who joins the Course Catalyst first group, I need to think of a cool name, maybe like my day ones. You guys are the day ones if you end up joining Course Catalyst. I want to give the absolute best support to you guys because that's the opposite of what I've experienced in other platforms where I have a problem, a question, or even a security concern or technical issue, and I get crickets. I reach out to support, they're basically useless. The articles are useless. So basically then I have an issue that can't be solved because it's outside of my control. Well, that's what I want to eliminate with the way I do support with Course Catalyst. If there's a problem, we're going to solve that. So when you're signing up with Course Catalyst, you have that confidence, that trust, and that confirmation that you will get the result you are going for to build out your systems, your funnels, your courses, lead magnets, contacts, all of that stuff. You're not going to hit a hiccup that's a showstopper and then you have to go find a different platform or recreate everything. I was talking to my friend explaining how I was pairing the product with the service, and he said it reminded him of how Stripe built their company. Now, I don't know a thorough history of Stripe, so you can research all of the specifics, but he was explaining how Stripe would actually go above and beyond to help every single customer integrate with Stripe. So their goal wasn't just to give them a software and let them do everything. The goal was to support them end to end, making sure that they could do digital payments. So I read that they would go to hackathons and they would work with developers, actually showing them how to use Stripe and helping them integrate it into their apps. So that very hands-on approach is essentially what I'm doing with Course Catalyst. It's not enough just for me to provide that platform because I want to make sure everybody who goes through is super happy, and I want to know what issues every single customer runs into so I can get them fixed. That could be an issue with my platform, but more than likely it's going to be an issue with some other platforms not providing what they needed, so I can fix that within Course Catalyst. So we want to have rapid iteration. I don't want it to be something where you need something and it takes, hey, fill out this support ticket and we'll send it over to our dev team. And we may or may not implement that in a year. Instead, what I want it to feel like is if you have an issue, you tell me and then we fix it, if it's within scope of what Course Catalyst is supposed to achieve. Now that's a very simple drawing, but that's the idea. One of the big problems with open software, if we just had a checkout page, and I can explain this using an example for me, I was trying to find a good contact management system, so I signed up for every single one I could find. Basically just learning the ins and outs to figure out which one was the best for my needs. And if I got on one and I was not very happy, there was a couple of times where I was like, this is very close to what I want. And I even tried to make a few work. I tried them out for a little while, spent a ton of time building all of my flows and stuff in their platform, but it just still wasn't quite what I needed. What did I do? I just left. This is standard behavior. This is what most people will do. So if the creators of the platform are unable to identify why this switch happened, why I ended up leaving, then they're not able to improve that or fix that. And yes, you could tell them, but how often do you do that? You go to a website, it doesn't work the way you want, so you send them an email and you say, hey, I don't like your website. Most people don't do that, so you're going to have very little feedback on the platform. This is a killer for rapid iteration. You're going to have much slower feedback and it's going to take a lot more people because not everybody who runs into issues is going to let you know. Here's the other big problem. When I was trying out these different contact management systems, it was very time consuming. And when people start off in business and, doing their own thing online, they usually just think about dollars. But the bigger you grow, the more you start thinking about time. And when you get big enough, the choice to use some platform or some software or some service is less about that direct cost and more about how much time it's going to take you or how disruptive it's going to be to what you already have. So when I spent a few days customizing these CMSs and then finding out I didn't like them and leaving, well, I just wasted a bunch of my time. Well, one of the big things with Course Catalyst is my target audience. I'm not really targeting people who are brand new to business. Now I can help somebody who's brand new to business, help them get their first lead magnet and their first course and even upsells from there. But that gap is so big. What's better for me is to find somebody who's a little bit more established. They have some courses, they have some lead magnets, but they can make a few quick changes to drastically improve their results. And I can simplify all of their stuff and save them money, bringing them to a single platform. So they're not putting their email over here and their products over here, their courses and their contacts spread out across a bunch of platforms. We can just bring it all into Course Catalyst. So I would say that's my preferred audience, and even getting some bigger players who are more well established, because their word of mouth is going to help me out more, and I already have connections to a lot of high-level coaches and content creators. I've been doing YouTube myself for 15 years, and over that period of time, I've connected with a lot of big YouTubers. But if I came to them right now and pitched them Course Catalyst, they're not going to look at that initial cost. They're going to look at how much time they have to invest to move everything they've already built over to Course Catalyst. Now there's two fixes for this. One, making Course Catalyst purely additive, which it is, meaning you can add Course Catalyst to your existing systems to test it out, confirm that it's working, figure out that it's what you want to do for your other stuff, and start migrating over to Course Catalyst. So that partially solves the problem, but now you just have one more tool you have to think about. So the other way to solve this is to have me do it. And I laugh because I'm building a software, and in the process of that, I end up doing a bunch of service, but I truly think that's the best way to sell. You come to me, don't worry about it. I'm going to support you through that entire migration process. So Course Catalyst has your entire history of transactions, contacts, all your products, everything that you would have split out across multiple platforms is now within Course Catalyst. Even things like your sequences and automations can be brought in there as well. So basically then the pitch is, hey, I'll bring you over to Course Catalyst. You can try it out, confirm that it works. And if it's good for you, I will move everything you have over to Course Catalyst, which will drastically save you money and cost you almost no time. Throughout that process, since we're going through everything anyways, we could catalog your entire marketing flows, systems, everything about what you're doing to get clients and get people in your contact list, to find any issues, bottlenecks, or things that are preventing success with your marketing systems. So that makes it a whole lot more incentivizing for somebody who's a bigger player to work with Course Catalyst. They basically will then have the confidence and trust that they will be able to get fully on Course Catalyst without hitting any hiccups, because the creator is there to actually make sure everything works end to end, which is not very common in software, but that's exactly why this is going to do so well. So that's the approach I'm going to be using to get some YouTubers, people who are in the hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers, as well as some high-level coaches, doing 5 or 6 figures per month. And then for the money portion, well, I believe the bigger you go, the more people concern themselves with time. You can easily convince people with the money by just adding up what they're doing already. They might be spending $300 on some product hosting. Maybe they're spending $300 on a newsletter system. And you might think these numbers are high if you're starting out, but they're not. Some of these platforms get very expensive once you need certain features or you get enough contacts. They might be spending $99 on some system for marketing, such as using timers in their funnels. They might be paying some smaller fees for some other things. Maybe it's some analytics software or some community that they're managing or whatever it might be. It doesn't really matter. Basically, any feature that Course Catalyst provides can replace many of these things. So I could just take all this and show them, you're now going to pay, and then whatever that price is for them. So not only will you pay less, but I'll act as a help going through your entire marketing systems, ultimately bringing them over to Course Catalyst and improving and simplifying the entire structure. This makes any service fee easy to sell because you can just say, hey, this is going to pay for itself in however many months. Now, another thought is product market fit. In software, it's challenging to create good software, it is. But it's not that hard once you know what the software is supposed to do, because the logic describes what the software does. So all a software engineer has to do is know what the software should do. And this comes down to a lot of decisions and then making sure it does it. So confirming that it does this. But a bigger problem in software is, does anybody want this? Because what we don't want to do is build amazing software that solves a problem nobody cares about. We want to build software that solves problems people will pay money for. And what you'll commonly see with marketing and software and products is people suggest you do surveys or ask around what people need or want. And this can give you some progress into what people are struggling with, especially if you're asking specifically, what are you currently struggling with? That's going to give you feedback into building a better product. But what it doesn't answer is that a big enough problem that you would pay me money to solve it? If you ask somebody, a lot of the time they will say yes. But if you then got out a card reader and said, okay, pay me the money and I'll fix your problem, they will hesitate, because people don't vote on what's important with what they say. They vote on what's important with their money. So their credit card is the actual vote on, yes, this is painful enough for me to pay money. And that is why, instead of putting all of my user research to external non-customers, asking people online, I'm focusing instead on doing it to my actual customers, which gives them a better product and a better experience. And it's valid because they are paying me actual money to solve those problems, so I know they're not bogus. A big problem in software and in any subscription type stuff is churn. Let's just say, for example, you have a 5% churn rate per month. I'm not really sure what the standard typical numbers are, but let's just go off of this for an example. Let's say you have 100 subscribers. Every single month you lose 5. So when you started, you might have made 5 sales. And at the time, that was incredible. You got your first customers, you're happy, you've made a big achievement. But once you have 100 subscribers, you have to make 5 sales just to replace the 5 people you lost. So now what was once incredible is just the bare minimum to keep numbers where they are. So it feels like you're moving forward, but you're really just staying in the same place. And this is an interesting idea because it becomes more challenging the farther you go up. If you have 1,000 customers, what you used to sell one-to-one is going to be very challenging to sell one-to-one, because you'd have to be making 50 sales a month just to keep the numbers where they're at. So the easiest way to fix this problem is not to first change your sales strategy, but to reduce churn. We want to bring this number down. And again, I don't know what those exact numbers are for typical software or typical subscription products, but it's a very concerning thing. If you have high churn, you're going to have to continually get new people. So if we reduce churn, we will then see the new sales as a benefit, a growth thing, not just a thing to stay where we are. So that's another reason why I'm going above and beyond for the people and providing that service, because I do not want churn. After they are done working with me in that first month, they'll get the full year. And after that year, I want them to stay a subscriber for the rest of their life. Not through data lock-in or any of the other annoying approaches and strategies to keep customers, but instead, because the service is so good, they get value from being on the platform and they're a customer for life. So when I get to 100 customers and my churn rate is way lower, maybe 1%, my original sales tactics will still work. So let's talk briefly about some of those sales strategies beyond one-to-one selling for like the first 10 people. If the conversion rate for one-to-one selling is high enough, then I'll continue to do it. But if you scale infinitely, let's just theorize here, at some point, you're going to want to go away from one-to-one sales, at least coming from me. So I could hire sales reps, or I could do one-to-many sales, or open the sales page for anybody to come. So when I say one-to-many sales, I still think of the sale process being delivered by me, but to a group. So I think of webinars, doing a weekly or monthly webinar, showing how the software is helpful, why you might want to use it, and then getting a lot of people into these webinars. That's something I will definitely consider. So I may continue the one-to-one selling, and I may introduce one-to-many sales, and then I may ultimately introduce a more automated system through landing pages and ads. And I want to make something clear if I didn't already. The people that start off with me early on, obviously they're going to get a lot of support and a lot of time. But the people that join in one-to-many or through these automated systems, it's not like I'm just going to leave them there to figure it out entirely on their own. So I still want to have a very strong support system in Course Catalyst, using that as a differentiator from many of the other platforms that outsource that stuff or just have a really terrible support team. So I have some ideas around that, and obviously it'll become more concrete when I get closer to 100 or so people. But having a strong community, something you can actually engage in and get help from not just me, but other people who are using Course Catalyst. Clear docs that are up to date and actually work. So how to set things up, how to do certain things. Then if you have issues, you can reach out. Simplicity. So one of the ideas with Course Catalyst is I don't want to do everything, because if I try to implement everything within Course Catalyst, I promise you the platform will not be good. I think the more people you try to sell to, the worse the product starts to become, because you get feature bloat and you get a bunch of features that are mediocre. Now, I do want to have a lot of features and I want it to be broad enough for online business, content creators, coaches, but I'm not going to try to replace every single software out there. What I will replace, that exact list might change with time. Right now, basically any email systems, any hosting providers for courses or products, whereas some platforms try to recreate everything with their own custom solution, and it's basically just a worse version of what already exists. What actually can be built successfully within a platform is often limited to the amount of time you can spend creating those features, testing those features, and making sure they're good. So I might actually do a dedicated video on how I decide what goes into the core features of Course Catalyst, and it's based off of core beliefs of mine of how things should be built and ran. So I would love to talk about those things in another video, but we've covered everything for the topic of today. So what I would suggest to you is check out the free course, which will give you the structure of a funnel to get started creating a contact list that you can then sell to forever. So that system will basically work no matter whether you are a course creator, a coach, a content creator, because the only thing you change is you adjust the framework for your offer, and then you adjust the CTA to either buy a product, book a call, or whatever you're trying to get your contacts to do. So check out that link below, and if you want to work more closely with me, there will be more information in that course on how to do that. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. do me a favor and subscribe. If you like this, if you made it this far, please subscribe.